So again, this is Felicia with GW Solutions, and today we're going to be doing a Q&A about grants. What are your top questions for grants? So I have some questions that I'm going to get started with for people who have posted their questions ahead of time. So let's start with number one. How do you know if a grant is real? And this is a big one, right? How do you know if a grant is real? Number one, they will usually be free. I have come across two grant options that are not free, but that I know are real. Those two, I can't name them off the top of my head, but it's no more than $20. So if you're charged $89, hundreds of dollars, those are probably not real grant options. What they're going to do is give you something generic that's not going to actually match your organization. So that's one way that you know if you have to pay for it, it's probably not free. The vast majority of them, real ones, are free. So another thing, real ones usually have online links. You can look them up if you type in their name and of just a basic Google search, they will come up, and you can find the link so that you know how to apply. And another thing that you can count on for free grants or real grants is they come back year after year. So that's one thing that I tell my clients. If you find a grant and if it's a real grant and you miss a deadline, don't worry. Put it on your calendar. Go back to it next year. So another question is, how do I qualify for grants, or how do I know if I qualify? So there are different requirements for every grant. You cannot say one thing will make you qualify for a grant. So it's hard to put a finger on it for a for-profit business. Let's talk about some of the things essential things that you need to qualify for a grant. Number one, your business needs to be registered with your state. Okay, so if you haven't registered with your state, gotten an EIN number, then you're probably not going to qualify for that small business grant. Number two, you also need to have a bank account with your business name. I'm not talking about a DBA. You need a bank account registered under your business EIN. So if your business is not registered with your state, most banks will not allow you to get a bank account. So that's why that state registration again is essential, so that you can get a bank account. So for nonprofits and small businesses, of course, you need to be community focused. This is not just about business as usual. There are not many grants for general operating support. Most of them are program specific. So you have to have a specific program that you are requesting money for. It needs to have specific goals. It needs to have specific outcomes. It needs to have a specific population that it's serving. So if you have a community focused program, then you will likely qualify for a grant. So that is, how you know if you qualify, or how do you qualify. Get those things together. If you get it together before you want a grant, then you'll know that you can get a grant when something does come up. So, are there really grants where everyone gets the award? That's funny because just recently, I've been seeing something going around saying, "Oh, there's a grant available. Everybody wins. No one's turned away." It's not true. There are no grants where everybody gets the award. A lot of times when you see those are actually funding companies where they'll offer you a loan or application for some type of line of credit. So it's not an actual grant. It's actually a program for funding. So yeah, those that says everyone wins, those are most likely not a grant. I've never seen one in almost 20 years. So the next question will be, well, how long does it take to get a grant? And that is very dependent upon the grant. So when you have smaller local foundations and individual boards, it could be 30 days. 30 days for the quickest turnaround where you send something in and they let you know. That's a very quick turnaround. But if you're new and you've never gotten a grant, it could take up to a year for you to get your first grant, and sometimes even longer depending on how ready you were when you got started. So you need to make sure that you're ready before you get started in your grant writing game, and then make sure that you don't need the money immediately. Because if you do, you're going to be desperate, doing things that's actually going to reduce your chance of winning the war, like contacting people constantly and pressuring them to give you an answer. If you do that, it's most likely going to be a no. So, but if you're ready, you can, a real good timeline that you can expect is 90 days to 6 months. So 3 to 6 months where you can get a response if you have done all of what you need to do to get ready. That's when you can actually expect to get a grant. Remember, if you're just starting out, get ready first. Then you can expect to get a grant quicker. So what's the biggest mistakes that people make when they're writing a grant? So I'm going to give you the top three because there's so many mistakes you can make. But the top three, number one is to go it alone. If you try to write a grant by yourself, you probably are going to think that you answered all the questions and that you were thorough and that they can understand what you're saying. But if you just let someone else read it, someone else who doesn't know anything about your program, and see if they can understand what you meant to say, then you can say, I did a good draft. But most of the time when you write it by yourself, you know what you are trying to say, but what you need to make sure is if the person reading it is going to understand what you're trying to say. The next mistake I see people do is the one draft submit. So you start typing, you see something comes in, you just start typing in answers. You might read it over, but you go to the next question, the next question, the next question, and then you hit submit without doing a second draft. My suggestion with those, if you have an online application, is to copy the questions, paste it in a Word document, type out the answers, and then let someone else read it. You read it again later to make sure that you actually said what you meant you were trying to say. So make sure that you just don't type it out and send it, because that's a big mistake. Trust me, there are mistakes in there that you're going to miss if you don't go over it a couple of times. And then grants without the prep work. So it's the people who are not ready for grants who insist on submitting a grant without being prepared. So I run into that a lot because I tell people, well, you need to get this in place, this in place, this in place. And they don't want to take the time to do that because, of course, it's going to push their grant writing back, push back the time until they get money. But it actually improves your chances of getting money if you would do these other things. So if you don't do the preparation first, that is one of the biggest mistakes that you can make before you submit a grant. So another thing, what are your best chances for getting grants, right? Where do you start where you could get the best chances? So the first place you want to start is locally. And hopefully you have been out networking, you've been active in your community, you have partners, influential people that are your supporters. If you have all of that in place, then yes, local is the best option for you to get your first grant. So make sure you start there if you've done the prep work. What else is your best option for grants? Make sure that you don't ask for your total budget, right? A rule of thumb for me is like about 25% of your organizational budget is what you can expect to ask for a specific program. Unless you only have one program for your entire organization, then you can ask for more. But most people have multiple programs, multiple hands in the pot, basically, that they're doing in the public. So You shouldn't ask for all of your organizational budget or your program budget from one funder. So make sure you don't do that. That's something to avoid. And also, getting you to your best chances to win, you should partner with someone established if you're still new. So if you just created an organization within the last 5 years, you're still building and building up your brand and getting to people to know you in your community. Try partnering with somebody, maybe another new organization or an established organization, so that you can get the connections, learn the ropes, and get your organization out there and exposed so you can get more funding for your organization. So let me now go to another question. Remember, if you have questions, type them in the comment section, and then I will respond to those too. So, what are some of the most important tips that I can give organizations when they go out to write grants? So, number one is going to be focus on outcomes, right? So many people, when they start writing, they focus on themselves, their organization, what they're doing, how hard it is, how much trouble they've had raising money. These are all strategies to get a no. Okay, do not claim that. Don't cry poor in your grant application, because who wants to give someone who doesn't know how to manage money more money? So what you should be claiming is how frugal that you've been, how well you've managed your limited dollars, how much impact and outcome that you were able to achieve with the resources that you have. So focus on your outcomes, not on poverty or your lack of resources. Focus on what you have done and how you have already helped people. Tailor your response to what the funder is saying. So if they are talking about inclusion or vulnerable populations, make sure that you are talking about how you are including people. If they're talking about a specific vulnerable population, make sure you talk about how you serve that population. So whatever the funder is has a focus on, make sure that you write about that in your response. And then finally, one of my most important tips for people who really want a grant, I have to say you get so much more no's than yeses. And if you are a sensitive person, it hurts, but you got to get thick skinned if you want to be in this grant game, because you have to submit. And when you are submitting, that means once a quarter, once a month, maybe. The more you put out there, the more you're going to get. So if you want to put out one grant, you want to hire a grant writer to write one grant, and you aren't going to do any more work, or you're not going to pay anybody, that's probably not going to work unless you have an inside connection. If you want a grant and you're starting from the bottom and you have to build everything up, then what you have to do is be committed to submitting. And when you do that, you will get funding. Okay, so here's the next question. What can make the biggest difference from you getting a grant and you not getting a grant? So the number one biggest difference maker is relationship. Do you have a relationship with someone in the funding organization? Maybe it's someone on the board. Maybe it's someone in leadership there that works there. You need to have some type of relationship in your community, in the leadership of your city, within the nonprofit community, that can vouch for you, that can speak for you, that could vote for you. So if you're not out there in the community making connections with the decision makers, the key stakeholders in your community, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You need to create relationships with influential people, because those are the people making the decisions about the funding that you get. The other thing that can make a big difference for your organization is leadership in your organization, need to become a fundraiser. Now, that's different for for-profit and nonprofit organizations. Let's talk about nonprofits first. The fundraiser is the leader that gets out in the community and is not afraid to ask individuals and organizations for money. Yes, you are going to be begging. And it's not the pitiful beg, it is the confident beg. It is saying that you want to work with us. We are doing important things in the community, things that you care about and that you say you care about anyway. So you could work with us to get things done. And this is how much money we need. And this is what we'll do with it. And that's the first part of it, because you have to talk convincingly. And then they'll say, okay, you can submit an application. So the first thing you need to do is get over your fear of asking for money. And number two, find out the people in the community that you need to know, and find a way to shake hands with them and then have coffee with them and then eventually talk to them about the money that you need. The last thing I'm going to say, what makes a difference is making a fundraising plan, an actual plan with action steps in it and timelines and goals to help you raise the money that you need, because you're going to need outside money if you want a grant. If you haven't raised any money, you can't ask someone else for money. You have to first show initiative, show that the community is supporting you with dollars and cents, and then you can go out and ask for money. Okay? So those are my top things that can make a difference with you getting a grant or not. Building relationships, becoming a fundraiser, and creating a plan for fundraising. So next, someone asked, are business grants real? If you have a for-profit business, are the grants you see out there real? The short answer is yeah, they're real. People are winning them every day. Somebody is getting a small business grant. Sure, some of them can start at $500, but I've seen a pitch competition for $1 million. So they are out there. If you are not afraid to go after them, then you can win one for your business. Again, there are some caveats. Like I said, you got to be committed to submitting, but they are out there. So let me talk to you a couple of things about them though. If you just do a Google search and look for small business grants, you're going to find a whole bunch of crap. A lot of people are looking to get money from you to help you write proposals or tell you about some grant that maybe even closed. They're called sunset. They used to be around, but now they don't do it anymore. You're not going to know until you look it up. So be careful about that. There are some things, if you see a advertisement on your social media or something like that, those are most likely true. But when you go looking for them, you're going to run into a lot of smoke. That it's just smoke. You try to grab onto it and it disappears. So business grants are out there. They are real, but they can be difficult to find. And then I'm going to wrap it up unless I get any more questions. I'm going to wrap it up with how can GW Solutions help? So I'm going to tell you 4 things that I do that can help you. Number 1, I can help you find real open grant opportunities. So you can apply for them yourself if you would like to. Some grants are easy. A plug-in, again, I always recommend that you put it on a Word document, let someone else read it, leave it alone for a little while, read it yourself, make sure that it says what you want to say. Don't just type and submit. But I can help you find these grant options so you can submit them yourself. They are $10 a piece, but I do require that you do a minimum of 5. Okay? So that would be $50 for 5 real open grant opportunities for your organization, nonprofit or for-profit. Number 2, I can train you to write grants. Every month we have a grant writing class that's virtual. No matter where you are, you can register for the grant writing class and we write a grant together that you will submit on your own and for funding. And what you get for that $250 is not just that grant We talk about how to search for other grants, how to avoid mistakes, and how to put your best foot forward so to make sure that you win. So again, that is every month on the fourth Saturday from 9 to 1, and that is $250, and you can register for that at any time. Next, I can help you create a fundraising plan. Remember, that's one of the essential things that you have to do, because a fundraising plan is going to be the difference between you raising that outside money so that you're eligible to get a grant or not. So make sure that you have a plan in place. The plans are $350. And then finally, I can write grants for you for $75 an hour with a minimum of 5 hours, so that you can have a template to use over and over again to submit grants. Because remember, you have to be committed to submitting. Okay, so we do have another question here. What grants are available for women-owned businesses or women-owned entrepreneurs? There are many grants available for women. And if for small businesses, as a matter of fact, so many more are available for women and minority women in specific than almost any other group. Sorry, guys, you have to wait for the openings. But so for women, there is a plethora of grants, and I want to say a lot of the grants for women are higher in value than the general grants. So if you are really interested in finding out the grants for women, I suggest that you buy a few grant options. Like I said, a minimum of 5, but we could find 5 open grants for you that you can put on your fundraising calendar so that you can submit. Now, these grants are not typically the easier ones where you only have a few lines to put in. They're a little bit more challenging, but I know that a person who is about their business and community minded can fill these out if they want to. Okay, so also, would a fundraising plan be for a business? Is it essentially proving that you're already profited? So for a small business, I wouldn't say it's called a fundraising plan. I would call what you need to do is a content plan. So your content plan is like your marketing and your strategy. So on the nonprofit side, we're asking for money. On the for-profit side, you're asking for customers. So you have to have a plan to get customers in the pipeline. If you don't know where your next customer is coming from, it's because you don't have a content plan and you're not networking. So we need to get a plan as how are you going to be telling your customers what to do, how they need to buy your products and support your business. And how you're going to tell them that this is not for you, that they're buying and purchasing, it's actually for them. So it's crafting this message to get money into your business. A little bit different from a nonprofit because that money is going to come in through donations, sponsorships, and grants. But for a for-profit, it's going to come in through customers. So you need to have your message geared towards your target population for your customers. But it's not called a fundraising plan. It's called a content marketing plan. Okay. Thank you for your questions. So I am getting here at the bottom here, and if anyone else has any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the comments. But I do want to wrap up with a couple of comments and suggestions. So if you were with GW Solutions in 2023, you know that every week in 2023, bar a few when I wasn't available, I did a grant review, a weekly grant review, where I went over one grant for a small business and one grant for a nonprofit organization. Those videos are still up on the Facebook page right now. You could go back through those videos and get those grant links and names and see if any of them are still available. You could do that for free. It's going to take a little bit of work on your part. If you don't want to buy the grant list from me, then I'm telling you how you can use what I've already done, that I already gave you. You just have to go search back through those Facebook posts to find those grants and then look them up. Now, if you don't want to do that, you can go to, you can contact me here. I'm going to put a link for my store for purchasing those 5 grant options to join the class on May 25th, 9 a.m. $250 will reserve you a seat where we're going to write a grant that day for class. The grants usually are from $3,000 on up. So if you believe that you can use $3,000, then you could pay $250 to get in that class. The people who joined the class have said they learned way more than they thought they were. They got the confidence to write a grant on their own, and many have gotten funding from attending that class. So I encourage you to do that. Right after we leave here today, that link is going to be available. And I just want to thank you for listening. And please feel free to contact me anytime, at comment or through Messenger or at my email that I will also put on the post for you to contact me if you would like. So that will conclude this presentation for today. And again, thank you for tuning in. I'm Felicia with GW Solutions. Happy fundraising.